Jada and Stitches Show. It's the first Friday of February, which means it's Calendar Blanket Friday, and time for the February installment of our 2023 Fair Isle Style Calendar Blanket. And we are just full of love this month. We are going to do this really cute little open heart graph pattern today. Each of the hearts sits neatly on top of each of the snowflakes. So as you're working this color work, just keep looking below to make sure that your stitches line up in the center with the graphs from the previous month. That's a really helpful visual way to make sure that you're keeping things in the right place as well as counting. Every row has 120 stitches and we're building directly on top of the January strip. Same yarn, same hook size. So let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn, we'll head on over to the craft table and we will stitch up the February Hearts Galore addition to our Fair Isle Style Calendar Blanket together. For the February strip, we are going to be using two colors, color A, which is your background color, and color B. You want color B wrapped around your 6 spools. I've got about 11 yards per spool. This month I'm using a nice light coral color, and my color A, my background color, is still white. I'll be using the same color throughout. You want around 85 yards of the background color, around 66 to 70 yards of your color B. This is the image color. I'm using a size 4 medium weight acrylic yarn. You also want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and the same hook we were using last month, a 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9. And once you've got all that ready to go, we can get started. Like January, our February graph is 11 rows high by 20 stitches across. You will see it always up here in the top right corner for you to refer to if you're moving along a little faster. We're also going to give you the counts for color and color changes as we go through the row, just like last month. As always, I highly recommend making a sampler before you do the entire blanket. This gives you a good chance to play with color, get comfortable with the color changes, A, B, A, and also to sort of get comfortable with where the spools hang. Just for fun, I did 3 different versions today to give you an idea of how much fun you can have with this particular heart graph. This is the graph we're doing today. It is an open heart, and I used 2 colors. They are a lighter background and a darker color for the image to give you that real strong heart shape. I also played around with 3 colors, so an A, B, C concept. Doing this is a little more complicated and it does make things a little tighter, and of course if you were going to do this for the whole blanket you'd be managing 12 spools as opposed to 6, but it is kind of fun to see how that looks. And also, rather than leaving the heart open in the middle, I just used B all the way throughout to get a solid heart look. So this is all basically the same graph, just playing around with what we do in the middle. Alright, we're going to refer to our graph. We're working on row 1. For the right-handed, we start on this side. For the left-handed, we start on this side. The whole row is just solid background color or A color, so you're just working a double crochet into every single stitch all the way across. And we are joining already onto the existing January strip. I left off with my white color here at the end of my 11th row on my January strip. If you fastened off and you're changing colors, so your color A is changing, you're going to join with a slip stitch, your new color, in the top of that first stitch. And for the rest of us, we're just going to chain 2. So join with a slip stitch and chain 2 if you're changing colors, otherwise just chain 2 with your existing background color. Remember, the first stitch of the row is already used by that chain 2, and now you're just double crocheting in every single stitch all the way across because we have no color changes for row 1. You will have 120 stitches at the end of row 1. That is the first 20 stitches. That accounts for the first row of 1 repeat of our graph. So stitches 1 through 20. Remembering that this was the chain 2, or if you're left-handed, this was the chain 2. Because we're repeating this 6 times, we're going to be repeating stitches 1 through 20 5 more times, and that's how we're going to get to 120 stitches. So 20 times 6 repeats gives us 120 stitches. Don't forget, when you get to the end of the row, that last stitch, number 120, is worked into the top of the chain 2 that turned the previous row. I'm working on the very last stitch of the row. That is a double crochet into the top of the chain 2 from the previous row, so don't miss the top of that chain 2. Count them up, you should have 120 stitches or 6 full repeats of our graph. Very boring. No color changes yet. We are only just worried about that first row. We're turning into row 2 now, so if you're right-handed, you're starting over here. This is where row 2 starts. This is going to be your chain 2. If you're left-handed, you're starting over here for row 2. This is your chain 2 that begins the row. And our first color change is coming up, so get your first spool ready, and here we go. We're going to chain 2 to begin the row. Chain 2 counts as double crochet. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to work a double crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. So remember, this is your chain 2. It counts as a double crochet, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more stitches before we change color. So you work the first half of stitch number 9. Remember, chain 2 counts as a double crochet, and then that's 8 more actual double crochets, so that 9th stitch, you work the first half of it, and then you grab your first spool. You can just loop in your yarn if you want. I'm starting with a slip knot, and we're going to finish off that stitch with the new color. Tighten up a little bit on it. I'm also going to tighten up on color A, or the light color. We're going to carry color A. We're going to finish 2 double crochet with color B. So there's color B. Because we changed color, that first loop is the right color sitting on top of our little stitch there. Work the first half of the second stitch with color B, and then drop it completely and finish with color A, because there's only 2 stitches required on the graph to start with. So a couple pointers before we go forward. Here's where we are. We're on row 2. This was our chain 2 if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it's over here. We did 8 more double crochet in color A, switched to our spool for color B, worked 2 double crochet, and now we're going to work 9 in A. That completes row 2 graph repeat 1, and then you're going to do it again. 9 in A, 2 in B with the new spool, 9 in A. Repeat, 9 in A with white, 2 in B with the third spool, 9 in A with white. Every time you finish that second little stitch for row 2 with B, you drop that spool like it's hot. It doesn't matter what side of your blanket you start your spools on. So for me, I started on the front of my blanket, but you want to make sure you finish on the same side. So when I went to finish off my stitch, I made sure that I pulled my B color to the front, and I want to have all my spools start and finish on the front of my blanket for row 2. If you started on the back, you can have them all start and finish on the back for row 2. It doesn't matter. But when you turn your blanket for the next row, they're all going to move to the other side, and then they start and finish on the same side for that row. When you turn your blanket back the other way, they're all back where they started. So for me, that'll be back here on the front, and then they start and finish on the front. Turn the blanket, they start and finish on the back. Turn the blanket, they start and finish on the front, and so on. And that just kind of helps keep your spools from creating extra color changes as you go. So I'm going to bring all of that to the front. I'm going to worry about weaving in tails at the end. I've got 9 double crochets in color A to go, and that finishes off repeat of the graph number 1. So I'll catch up with you in a couple of stitches. There is 1 repeat of the graph of row 2 complete. So the chain 2 starts plus 8 more double crochets. That's the first 9 in A. We switch, bring in our first spool. We do 2 double crochets with the new color. That's B. And then we switch back to A to finish row 2 of the graph, and that is 9 double crochet stitches in A. Now we repeat all over again. 9 in A. We bring in spool number 2 for 2 double crochet, and then 9 in A again. So let's do 9 more double crochet in white, and I'll bring in spool number 2 with everybody. I've half worked my 9th stitch, or you can also look at it as 18 double crochet in white between the little beginnings of our heart. Remember to clip up your yarn as you leave. I forgot to mention that a second ago, but you want to clip up your yarn just so your spools aren't dangling around. going to start my second spool now. I'm going to finish off that double crochet with the new color. I'm going to work over top of color A, keeping my spools to the front because that's where my first one started and finished. I'm going to double crochet into the next stitch. I'm just going to take the opportunity to tighten up on all my little loose ends here. One more double crochet with color B. I'm only going to half work it though because I'm already switching back to color A. Make sure that that color is brought to the front. Finish off that stitch, and then I'm just going to work the next couple of stitches here, knowing that I have 9 more double crochet in color A to finish off the second repeat of the graph. But before I get too far ahead, I'm going to take my spool and wind it up and lock that yarn into place. And that way, as I'm working, they're not going to dangle too much, and they're certainly not going to tangle up with their neighbor. So that's it. You're just going to finish off the 9 double crochet in white, or your color A, so that you've finished off the second repeat of row 2 of the graph, and then it starts all over again. 9 double crochet in color A, 2 double crochet in color B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. That's 9 to finish the second repeat. So we've got 9 to start in A, 2 in B, 18 in A, 2 in B, 9 in A, and then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be bringing in all 6 of my spools as we cross row 2 of the entire blanket, and I'll catch up with you at the end of the row. The last stitch of the row, or the 9th double crochet in color A, is worked into the top of the chain 2. And that is it for row 2. We have done 6 complete repeats of the graph again. Row 2 of the graph, we have introduced all 6 of our spools. Make sure that whatever side your spools started on, they finished on. So for me, they should all be hanging out facing me right now. Another thing you want to see is your change color, your B colors, are all in perfect alignment with the center of your snowflakes from January as well. And if all that works out, then it's time to turn our blanket around very carefully. Let's just chain 2 to start the second row before we do that. So the chain 2 starts, we will carefully turn our blankets around. Now, all of my spools are on the other side. They're all facing away from me. That is the side they are going to start and finish on. And then when I turn my blanket around, they will be back on the front again. So here we go with row 3 of the graph. Row 3 of the graph is 7 double crochet in white. Remember that the first double crochet of the row is technically a chain 3. Right-handed, you're here. Left-handed, you're there. So 7 in white, chain 3, or I should say chain 2, and 6 more double crochets in white technically to start. And then we do 6 in B and 7 in white. And then we repeat 7 in white, 6 in B, 7 in white or A, and so on. Let's get those first 7 double crochet, or the chain 2 and the 6 double crochet, out of the way. That's the 7th stitch. I've only half worked it because now I'm going to change colors. So I'm going to grab B, unroll my spool a little bit, and when you look back you realize that it's got to travel a little bit of ways. So there's going to be some reach with this yarn. No big deal. Just finish the stitch with the new color. I'm going to tug out my A a little bit just to make it a little tighter. And then we're going to work over top of that reach for the next 2 stitches. So I've got my B color, I am carrying the white, my A, and I'm going to double crochet into the next stitch, making sure that I've got the reach of that B yarn underneath the stitch so that it disappears. Double crochet into the next stitch, again making sure I've grabbed the reach and I'm carrying my color. Alright, and that should be enough. If you have a little bit of extra, or you know, it's a bit loose on you, then you can pick it up and work over top of it for the 3rd stitch too, but mine pretty much disappears. That's just my little tail, which I'll be weaving in later. Okay, still carrying color A. We've got 4 more double crochets to work in our B color. This is double crochet number 6, so I'm only going to work the first half of it because I am switching back to white. We want to make sure that our white or the carried color hasn't bunched up, so you're just going to pull it gently and it'll disappear, but make sure that you don't pull so much. I'll just take my hook out of the way here. You don't want to pull so much that you end up cinching your image together, because you don't want tight spots throughout your blanket. So just enough that any little extra bubbles that might have been there disappear, and then if you feel like maybe you tightened it a bit too much, just pull back on it a little bit. Not a big deal. Make sure before you finish that stitch with the new color that your spool and color is on the side of the blanket that it started on. For me, that's at the back. And then finish the stitch. I'm going to just tug on that color a little bit just to make sure that stitch is neat and it matches the other ones in its stitch consistency, so the tension is all the same. And then drop it like it's hot. That is a done spool. I do not need that color until I get to the next repeat of the graph, so I don't want to accidentally work over top of it. Now it's just 7 double crochet in color A to finish that graph repeat once, and then I start all over again. 7 stitches in A, 6 stitches in B, 7 stitches in A. Before I go too far away, I'm going to grab my spool and wind up all that excess yarn so that it's nice and snug and it's not going to tangle up with its neighbor. And like I said, I'm working in the air to kind of show you what I'm doing, but if you work on a hard surface like your table or even your lap, your spools will not dance around that much. So that is the color change to B from A and back to A again. We're going to finish just those 3 more. Looks like I've got 3 more to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that is 1 full repeat of row 3 for the graph. And that's all you're going to do all the way across, 6 times in total. At the end of row 3 of 6 repeats of the graph, you should have something that looks like this. Make sure all of your spools are all on the same side, and the bottoms of our hearts should all be in alignment with the center of our snowflakes. And every single one of your hearts should have start with 2 stitches and then have 6 evenly spaced across those 2 all the way across. That last double crochet is worked into the top of the chain 2 from the previous row, and we begin row 4 with the chain 2. We carefully turn our work. All of our spools have now moved. For me, they're all sitting facing me again, ready to go. And across this row, I'm going to make sure that they start and finish on this side. For row 4, right-handed, we're over here, that's our chain 2. Left-handed, you're over there, that's your chain 2. It's 6 double crochet in the white or light color, then we switch to 3, then we switch back to A for 2, back to B for 3, and then 6 more to finish. So chain 2, 5 double crochet in the light color to start. I've started double crochet number 6, counting my chain 2 as a double crochet, and now I want to switch to my color B. So I'm going to undo that spool a little bit, keeping it on the right or the front side of my fabric. I am now carrying the white, so I'm going to work over top of it, just bring it up a little bit. I have a little bit of a carry, so I'm going to double crochet into the next stitch, making sure that I catch that reach of the B color, and I'm carrying white. I'm going to work 3 double crochets in the B. I'll just tighten up my little tails here. So I'm carrying white, I double crochet 3 times, I half work that 3rd double crochet. We're switching back to the light color or color A for 2 stitches. So now we're carrying B because we need B again over here. 2 double crochet in white or light color A, half work the second one, we're switching back. I'm going to make sure that I'm not tangling my yarn, so I'm going to grab my yarn over here, making sure it's not tangled. I'm working over top of the A color again. 3 double, oops, I gotta finish that stitch. Always good to pause and see what you're doing. So 3 in B, 2 in A, back to B, we're carrying A, 3 double crochet in B. Half work that third double crochet, drop your spool like it's hot, you're done with B for that first repeat, and we should have something that looks like this. So 6 white, 3 B, 2 A, 3 B, and then another 6 in A to finish. But before I head off, I'm just going to roll up my B color, and then I'll finish that repeat of the, or I should say the first repeat of row 4 with 6 double crochet. Alright, this is going to be the rest of row 4. 6 double crochet in A, switch to B for 3, switch back to A for 2, switch to B for 3, drop that spool like it's hot, and then finish the repeat with 6 double crochet in A. Then repeat 6A, 3B, 2A, 3B, 6A, and so on. At the end of row 4 and 6 full repeats of the graph, all of your spools should be on the same side. For me, that's facing me, and you should have the bottom part of what is now the opening up of the heart. So the inside open part of the heart has started. Those 2 stitches should be directly in alignment with the 2 first stitches that B made. So you'll know everything's working out properly if those 2 stitches are sitting directly on top of the 2 stitches that started the heart. We are going to make sure that last double crochet is in the top of the chain 2. Chain 2 to turn, that becomes the first stitch of row 5. Carefully turn your blankets. All of your spools are now on the other side. For me, that's the side facing away from me. And let's go back to the graph. Row 5 is kind of a fun one. If you're right-handed, your chain 2 is over here. If you're left-handed, your chain 2 is over here. And now you're just thinking in sets of 4. 4 light, 4 dark, 4 light, 4 dark, 4 light, repeat. Or 4 color A, 4 color B, 4 color A, 4 color B, 4 color A, repeat. So we're carrying the colors a couple times over the middle of our work. Let's get there. So my chain 2 counts as the first double crochet. I've got 3 more to add in before I pick up B. I start the first half of that 4th stitch, grab my B color. I've got a reach happening, so I'm just going to finish off that stitch, making sure that I've got enough that I can work over and it's not too tight. So that's a little bit of a reach, not a big deal. Carrying color A, I'm going to pull up on that a little bit to make it a bit tighter. I'm going to double crochet, carrying A and working over top of that little reach. And make sure I've got it again. And that's fine. I'm going to do 2 more with color B. This is the 4th stitch for color B. I half work it, drop it. I'm going to just tug gently on color A to make sure that it's disappearing. Finish off that stitch, and I'm now going to be working over top of color B. So B, I'm carrying 4 double crochet with color A. Work the first half of that 4th stitch. I'm going to just pull gently on color B, just so it disappears. Now I'm carrying color A. I've got 4, I'm going to finish this stitch with color B. And now 4 stitches with color B again. I'm carrying A. Work the first half of the 4th stitch with color B, drop it, finish it with color A. That is all the color changing for this part of the graph, so I make sure that my spool is on the same side that it started on. I'm going to wind it up, and then I will finish with 4 more double crochets in color A. And there we go. That's stitch number 20. Remember, there are 20 stitches across our graph. We repeat it 6 times for a total of 120 stitches every single row. 4A, 4B, 4A, 4B, 4A. Repeat, remembering that you're carrying A under B, carrying B under A, and then carrying A under B as you work that open middle section. But once you're done with the color, drop it like it's hot. Make sure it's on the right side of the blanket, and by right I mean the correct side, the side that it started on. For me this time it's the side facing away from me. And then you repeat all over again. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. And I'll see you at the end of row 5. That's the end of row 5. So 6 repeats of row 5 of the graph, and all of our open hearts are really starting to show now. All of your spools should be on the same side, whatever side that is that they started on for that last row. So for me, that was the side facing away from me. We chain 2. This begins row 6. We carefully change sides, so we turn our blankets over. Now all of our spools should be on the side opposite to the side they were just on. For me now, they're all facing me. And let's look at the graph. Row 6. Right-handed, chain 2, we're over here. Left-handed, chain 2, you're over there. It is 2 stitches A, 4 stitches B, 8 stitches A, 4 stitches B, 2 stitches A. So that's 20 stitches all the way across. We're going to repeat that 6 times. This is the largest open spot in the middle of the heart. So 2, 4, 8, 4, 2. To begin, that chain 2 counts as a double crochet. So we start the second stitch of A, but we don't complete it because we're changing colors right away. I've got a little bit of a reach here. So I'm going to finish off that stitch, tug down on A a little bit. I'm carrying A. I'm going to make sure that I work over top of that little bit of a reach. I'm working 4 double crochet in color B, making sure I grab that little reach. Carrying color A. I start the 4th stitch, do not finish it. Tug gently on color A just to make sure that there's no bubbling anywhere. Now I switch. I'm going to carry B under A. I'm going to work 8 stitches with color A. Finish off that stitch. Just gently pull down on B. Make sure that all of my stitches are even tension-wise. And here I go. 8 double crochet, carrying B across the open center of the heart. I get to stitch number 8, I half work it, take B, pull gently just to make sure that there's no bubbling coming out anywhere. And now I'm going to finish with B. And now I'm carrying A again. So I'm going to work 4 double crochet with B, working over top of my A color. Work the first half of that 4th stitch, bring the color to the front because that's where my spool started, so it's going to finish on this side. Finish off that stitch. I'm going to just tug tightly, not tightly, but just tug a little bit on that. Make sure all of my stitches look the same. And I'm going to roll up my spool to keep it from dancing around on me. And then I finish the row with 2 double crochet in color A. So 2 double crochet in color A. That's 2, 4, 8, 4, 2. That's 20 stitches. 2 in A, 4 in B, 8 in A, 4 in B, 2 in A. And you repeat that all the way across. 2, 4, 8, 4, 2. 6 repeats, and that will be row 6 finished. That's row 6 complete. We've got the full bottom of our open heart now. All of them should be sitting directly on top of our snowflakes, and they should all look very even all the way across. Make sure that all of your spools are on the same side that they started on. We're going to chain 2 and carefully turn our work. All spools are now moving to the opposite side of the blanket. And here we go with row 7. Chain 2 counts as a double crochet. Right-handed, we're over here. Left-handed, you're over there. We start with a chain 2 in A and immediately switch to B for 3 double crochet, back to A for 5 double crochet, back to B for 2 double crochet, back to A for 5, B for 3, A for 1, and then repeat. So we're carrying A, carrying B, carrying A, carrying B, carrying A, and then we're dropping B right here at that last stitch before we turn back. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carries throughout this row and the next one. So these might be considered the most complicated rows, but at the same time, we're kind of just counting, and you're just carrying a couple times extra, and this is how we start to close in our heart. So here we go. That first chain 2 counts as a double crochet. We are immediately switching to our B, and we are carrying A. We're going to double crochet. There's a little bit of a carry into the very next stitch. Just going to pull back on my A a bit. There we go. So make sure you got that little bit of a carry, or the reach as it is. And now we're going to work 3 double crochets in B. I should say 2 more double crochet in B. That was the first one. And we get to the second one, or I should say the third, and we are going to stop because we want to finish that stitch with the white, or the A. I'm going to pull down on B a little bit. So we've got our chain 2 that begins the row. That counts as a double crochet. We've got 3 double crochet in B. We are switching now to A. We're carrying B. We're going to work 5 double crochet in A, carrying B. Start the 5th, don't finish it. Grab B, tug a little gently just to make sure there's no bunching under there. We're switching back to B, we're carrying A. So we're going to finish that stitch with B. 2 double crochet with B. Start that second stitch, but don't finish it. Switch back to A. We're carrying B again, so we're working over top of it for another 5 double crochet stitches with white, or A. Start the 5th one, don't finish it. Pull gently on B just to make sure there's no bunching underneath. Switch back to B. Notice how I'm making sure that I don't keep going in the same direction so I don't tangle my yarns. I'm going to pull down on A a little bit. Now I'm carrying A. I'm going to work 3 double crochet in B. Start that last double crochet in B, don't finish it, switch back to white. That's all the color changing. We're going to drop that spool like it's hot, pinch up the edge, work that last double crochet, and that is 1 full repeat, or 20 stitches of the graph. That is row 7. So A, which is our chain 2, or regularly just 1 double crochet, switch to B for 3, switch to A for 5, switch to B for 2, switch to A for 5, switch back to B for 3, so there's 5 different carries, so carry, 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 drop that spool like it's hot on that third and final B double crochet, switch back to A for 1, and then you start all over again. 1 double crochet, you barely get it started before you're already switching to B, making sure that you've got the right spool. These are really close together here, so I grabbed the wrong spool. Want to make sure I've got the right spool. Let's try that again. Start that stitch. There we go. And then switch to the correct spool. There's a bit of a reach. Make sure you've got it when you're double crocheting. 3 double crochet right away with B. Pull a little gently on A, switch back to A to complete that stitch, and now I'm off to the races. I'm going to do 5 in A and then 2 in B, 5A, 3B, 1A, and so on. And that is the repeat all across for row 7. That's row 7. Make sure all of your middle B double crochets are in alignment with the middle of your heart. So if they all look like they line up, that's a good visual way to know you're doing it right. You should also have 120 stitches still. Chain 2, turn your work carefully. All of your spools are now on the other side. For me, that's the side facing. Let's take a look at our graph. Row 8, right-handed, you're over here. This is your chain 2 to begin. Left-handed, you're over here. That's your chain 2 to begin. But no matter what direction you're going in, it's a mirror image. So you can really start from either side. That's the fun thing about these mirror image graphics. 1 in A to start. We switch to B immediately, just like the previous row for 3. 3 in A, 6 in B, 3 in A, 3 in B, 1 in A, repeat. So your B stitches are going to line up, these 3 are going to line up with the previous stitches on both sides of your heart. The thing that changes is that the white is used a little less in the middle, and there's 6B, so let's do it. Our chain 2 counts as a double crochet. We are immediately switching to B. So we're carrying A, I've got a little bit of a reach of B. I'm going to make sure I just get my hook underneath it so that I can have it disappear into the stitch. I'm just going to pull on my A little bit, but not too much. Start that third double crochet, switch to A to finish. Now we're carrying B. 3 double crochet using A, we're carrying B. Start that third double crochet with A. I'm just going to pull on B just so that I don't have any bunching or anything under there. I don't want the color to show. We're going to switch back to B and we're carrying A. We're going to finish off that stitch. And now it's 6 using B, carrying A. So you've got 2 B stitches before you're working 2 B stitches to cover off those middle B stitches from the previous row. Start that 6th and last stitch. Pull on the A just to make sure that it's not bunching anywhere. Switch to A to finish that stitch. Now we're carrying B. So 3 more double crochet with A. Switch back to B. I'm carrying A. Finish that stitch. 3 more double crochet with B. Tuggle it gently on A, switch to B, finish it with B, and that's it for that chunk. I'm going to drop that spool, wind it up so it's nice and tight, doesn't want to dangle on me, and then I finish with a double crochet in A. So there we go. That's the whole graph on repeat. 1A, 3B, 3A, 6B, 3A, 3B, 1A, and repeat. And you're going to do that 5 more times all the way across for row 8. That's row 8 complete. We're starting to fill in our hearts up at the top. So let's chain 2. That counts as the double crochet for row 9. We're going to carefully turn our blankets around. All of your spools are now on the other side. And let's take a look at our graph. Row 9, righties over here, lefties over here, but technically it's a mirror image, so it doesn't really matter what side you start on. 2 for A, 7 for B, 2 for A, 7 for B, 2 for A, repeat. 2, 7, 2, 7, 2. That chain 2 counts as a double crochet, so that's one of our first 2 white or A colors looked after. We're going to bring our B color up and carry it as we work our second stitch because we're working into the top of a B stitch from before, which means that our B color was dropped a little bit before where we're going to need it. So we're going to pick up that B. I'm just going to put it along the top edge before I unwind it. I'm going to start that second double crochet and I'm grabbing the B to carry it. So you can see that there. Start it. Then I'm going to keep my spool on this side of my blanket because that's where it's starting. I'll finish that stitch and now there's no sort of visible carry or reach, so that's nice and tidy. I am switching to B. I'm going to work 7 double crochet using the B color and I'm carrying A. I'm going to start that 7th double crochet with B. Make sure I've got 7. I'm going to gently pull on the A color and then switch to A to finish off that stitch. So there's the first 7 done. Now I'm carrying B. I'm going to work 2 double crochet with A. These are the very center 2 double crochet. So I start that second one. I don't finish it. Switch back to B. Making sure that they are directly in alignment with all the other middle 2 stitches, and they are. I'm carrying A again, I'm switching back to B, 7 more double crochet with B. I start that 7th one. I'm going to pull gently on my A color just to make sure that it's not bunching up anywhere. Finish with the A, and that is all I need for the B color, so I drop that spool, making sure that it's on the same side that it started on. For me, that's the other side. Wind up what's left and let it hang. We finish with 2 double crochet with color A, and that's the 20 stitches of row 9, and then we repeat. 2A, 7B, 2A, 7B, 2A, repeat. All the way across. We are on the home stretch. Alright, that was row 9. We're on to row 10, our last row of color change, and we've got just a little bit more to fill in up top, but we've pretty much got 6 charming little hearts here. Chain 2 at the end. You should still have 120 stitches. Turn your blanket, all of your spools move. Now mine are all on the front again. Row 10. Righties over here, lefties over here, chain 2 to begin. 4A, 4B, 4A, 4B, 4A, repeat. It is basically a repeat of row number 5. So row number 10 is a repeat of row number 5. We are finishing with our color changes this row. So the chain 2 counts as a double crochet into the next one, And as my bee finished earlier in the previous row than I'm going to need it in this row, I got to make sure I carry it a little bit. So remember, you're always looking for that opportunity to just blend in that little, I'm just going to get it over my hook here. So what I want to do is work over top of it so that I'm carrying it so that that color won't show up anywhere else. And then we start that 4th stitch, switch to B, and because I carried it, it's not going to reach across those white stitches. So that's why you want to look for the opportunity to carry. 4 in B, so I'm working across A now, I'm carrying A. Start that 4th stitch, pause, pull gently on the A. I'm keeping my spool to the front as I change through my colors because that's where it started. I'm carrying B now. I'm working 4 in A. Start that 4th stitch, don't finish it, tug gently on B, and then I am carrying A. So 4 in B now. Start that 4th stitch, pull gently on A. I'm keeping my B to the front. And that is it for the B. Drop it like it's hot, or you can snip your yarn at this point. But before we do that, let's just finish those 4 stitches with A. And when I'm in my last row of color change, I kind of like to do that, just so that it gets it out of the way. And I feel like I've kind of, it's like one little accomplishment off my list. So that's it for color changing for our hearts. I am going to snip my yarn so that I don't have this dangling spool to worry about. I will come back and weave my tails in later. I like to leave a fairly long tail so that when I'm weaving it in, I have lots of options to weave back and forth, and I know it's not going to come undone on me. And then we just repeat those 20 stitches all over again. So for the end of row 9, that's the last bit of color change, 4A, 4B, 4A, 4B, 4A, repeat. Remember, you're looking for those opportunities to carry color if you need to. And that's to avoid having the color reach across other ones. So I'm just going to get my hook underneath it. There we go. And double crochet as normal. And you see what's happened is when I pick it up to carry it, it will keep it out of the other color, so it's not going to show. Start that 4th stitch and switch to B. All the way across. There's all 6 of the hearts with color change complete. So that was row 10. All of our spools are finished, so I've snipped my yarn. I've left long tails so that I can weave everything in. We have a separate weaving in tutorial if you need extra help with that. But now we're on the home stretch. It is time for row 11. Row 11, no matter which way you go, it's just solid double crochet with A. So one last row in this month stitch, chain 2 to begin, turn your work, double crochet into the next stitch as usual, and double crochet into every single stitch across. You'll still have 120 stitches, and they'll all be the same color. And that is row 11 complete. It is just double crochet using color A all the way across. And if you are going to change colors for the next section, or you're just done with that particular background color, you can finish your 120th stitch and fasten off. So snip your yarn, fasten off. If you are continuing to use the same background color throughout, do not fasten off, just pull up on your loop. Maybe put a safety pin in there. This is the kind of project where if you leave it for a little while, you might find it helpful to just put a little safety pin in there so that it won't undo on you. There we go. That safety pin, just sort of clip it through the loop so that it won't undo on you if your yarn gets tugged. It's kind of a nice little thing. And if you're putting it aside for a while, you can even sort of safety pin a little note to it telling you what hook you were using and what other colors or yarn weight, etc. So kind of a handy thing when you're working on an all year long project. I really love the open heart look. We had thought about going with a solid heart before, but Mr. & Stitches recommended that we take out the center and take a look at how that looked. And as you could tell from the samples that I had done, I really liked the way that looked. There's just this extra little bit of accentuation to that pattern or that heart shape overall. And I like bringing the A color back into the middle of the B color. I don't know. I love the little open hearts. They look like they belong with the snowflakes. And that is February in the bag. We hope you enjoyed working on this along with us this week. And we will see you soon here on the Jada & Stitches show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have a great week. Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Mr. & Stitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.